A priest, 35 years old, no history of scandal, no record of sin. A man who gave everything to the church. He took his life in silence. No farewell to his parish, no final mass. Just a quiet room, an extinguished candle, and a single page left on the altar, trembling Latin inked by shaking hands. 14 words, and one of them matched perfectly what Pope Leo XIV had spoken in private nearly 4 years before. The shepherd will weep alone. Now you tell me, was this just another tragedy? Was it just burnout, depression, or something darker? Something whispered from the shadows of the sanctuary? Because the truth is, that man didn't die without reason. He died with knowledge. He died with weight. He died because he knew something. Something most Catholics will never be told. And something you were never supposed to hear. But now you're here. And now you've heard just enough to make a choice. You see, Pope Leo XIV tried to warn us, but Rome didn't listen. The bishops didn't act. And now the priesthood is unraveling at the seams, quietly, silently, as if heaven itself had turned its face away. And still, most will say nothing. But you're hearing this now. And something deep inside you, something older than fear, is stirring. Is it dread? Or is it the Holy Spirit saying, pay attention? Because this isn't just another religious video. This is a thread in a much deeper veil. And once you pull it, nothing will look the same again. If this darkness unsettles you, if something inside your soul just whispered, don't ignore this, but you're still about to scroll away, then ask yourself one question. What will you say when Christ looks you in the eye and asks, why did you ignore the warnings I sent you? You've heard it now. You can't unhear it. If your spirit is stirred, subscribe. If not, then write it plainly. Go to the comments and confess. I won't subscribe because I'd rather stay blind. Let your reason be seen. Let your silence be recorded, because heaven is watching, and so are we. Now, let's begin. Let's begin with what most people have already forgotten or never even knew. A private mass, no cameras, no press, just 9 men, handpicked, seated in the chapel of Saints Leo and Athanasius, deep inside the apostolic palace. Pope Leo XIV stood at the altar. His hands were trembling, not from illness, but from what he was about to reveal. He didn't read from a script. He didn't deliver a formal address. He confessed something that had been pressing on his chest for months, and all he said was this: the black mantle has returned. They wear it again, and this time, they don't even know it's there. Some of those men wept. One fainted. And within 48 hours, the Vatican redacted every word of that homily from the archive. But one line survived, written down by a young priest named Father Adrian D., and he underlined it in red. They carry wounds we trained them to hide. Father Adrian, 35 years old, brilliant, obedient, the kind of priest every mother prays her son will become, except Father Adrian had been crying every night before the Blessed Sacrament. He stopped sleeping. He stopped laughing. And just 3 weeks before he took his own life, he told his confessor, I can't carry what I see anymore. The veil is tearing, and no one is looking at it. You see, this isn't just about one priest. This is about a dark truth. One Pope Leo XIV tried to warn us about. A darkness creeping into the priesthood. Not scandal, not politics, but spiritual collapse. The kind you can't see in headlines. The kind you only notice once it's too late. And now, it may already be too late. His suicide was not a random act of despair. It was a confirmation. A line in the unfolding prophecy of this generation's suffering priesthood. And every word the Pope spoke in secret is coming true. But still, even now, most Catholics will ignore this. They'll say, this is just internet drama. It's a tragic story, but it doesn't concern me. I'd rather focus on hope, not fear. But brethren, hear this. When a man of God dies under the weight of silence, that concerns all of us. Because that silence isn't empty. It's full of secrets. Secrets Pope Leo XIV tried to bring into the light, but the church wasn't ready to hear them. And maybe you weren't ready either, but now you are. Because if you weren't meant to see this, you wouldn't be watching right now. And if you turn back now, you can't say you weren't warned. Not by me, not by Pope Leo, and not by the God who sees what's coming. So listen closely, because in the next few moments I'm going to show you the exact prophecy Pope Leo XIV whispered to his inner circle, the 4 signs that appeared before Father Adrian died, the Vatican's buried term, clerical spiritual collapse syndrome, and why this priest's suicide confirms the spiritual breakdown already happening across the church. But before we do that, I need to say something. Only 9 men heard the Pope's words in person. Only 1 priest wrote them down. And now you are hearing them too. That's not coincidence. That's not chance. That's calling. If you hear this and you feel your heart thumping, if your breath slowed just now, if you're starting to realize this isn't just a video, this is a warning, then don't run. Subscribe now. And if you won't, don't hide. Be honest. Go to the comments and write, "I won't subscribe. I'm not ready for truth." Say it boldly. Let the world and heaven know where you stand. But let there be no middle ground, because what comes next will shake you. And you're going to understand exactly why Pope Leo XIV was crying that night, alone in the Apostolic Chapel. The Pope didn't cry because of a scandal. He didn't weep over numbers or gossip. He cried because he knew the church was bleeding, quietly, and no one was looking. They were looking at the outer wounds, fewer seminarians, empty pews, disillusioned youth. But what he saw was worse. He saw the soul of the priesthood being pierced, not from outside, but from within. Now listen closely. Just 3 days before Father Adrian died, a Vatican courier delivered a sealed envelope to the Holy Father. There was no seal, no signature. Just 14 Latin words, written in fading ink on weathered parchment, tucked inside a breviary. That breviary had belonged to a visiting bishop, who had just returned from a silent convent near Assisi, where a nun, known only as Sister Maria Gloria, claimed to have received messages in the night. Messages without ink, visions without light, words that etched themselves into the fabric of her veil. And the one she feared the most, the one she repeated in tears, was this: "When the 6th seal is loosened, the shepherd will weep alone." That line was identical to the one Father Adrian wrote before his death. Now ask yourself, how did he know? How did this young priest, removed from Vatican politics, receive the same warning as a cloistered nun no one remembers? Coincidence or confirmation? The Vatican never released the full letter. We only know one thing. Pope Leo XIV wept for over an hour that night. He canceled every public appearance for 3 days, and those who saw him say he looked like a man who had seen the ruin of something sacred. He kept whispering one name over and over again: Maria Gloria, Maria Gloria. The next day she was gone, transferred, erased. No records, no trail, no trace. And just like that, the woman who may have held the key to this mystery was swallowed in silence. And so was Father Adrian. Until now. Because now his death has pulled back the veil. And you, dear watcher, you are seeing what others still pretend not to notice. But the real question is, what will you do with it? Will you follow this thread deeper, all the way to the truth? Or will you do what the bishops did? Look away. He wrote it plainly. The Pope knew. The others wouldn't listen. If you hear this and still walk away, still ignore the call to prepare, then don't pretend you didn't know. Because this isn't entertainment. This is testimony. And if you won't subscribe, don't vanish in silence. Go to the comments. Write it clearly. I heard, but I won't follow. Let it be written, because this will echo beyond today. But if your heart is burning, if something inside you is saying, this is real, then subscribe now. Join those who see. Join the few who won't look away. Because next, I'll show you the 4 signs that Pope Leo XIV gave to his private council, the signs of what he called the Black Mantle, each one terrifying, each one fulfilled, each one seen in the final weeks of Father Adrian's life, and by the time I finish telling you, you'll never look at the sanctuary the same again. Pope Leo XIV spoke of 4 signs. He didn't write them down. He didn't announce them from the balcony. He whispered them, one by one, to a group of hand-picked clergy behind the locked doors of the Hall of Tears. And he said this: the collapse will not begin in the seminaries, nor in the media. It will begin in the sanctuary, and those who stand closest to the altar will fall first. They thought he was being poetic. They thought he meant burnout. They were wrong. He meant something darker. He meant signs that would mark the souls of certain priests, like a sickness that could not be seen, only felt. And here they are. Sign 1. The unexplainable fear. Priests, once joyful and firm in their calling, suddenly unable to enter the church after dusk. Several accounts from Europe, South America, and even within Italy. Young priests breaking into sweat, feeling watched, refusing to be near the tabernacle alone. Father Adrian wrote in his final notes, I used to feel peace in his presence. Now I feel eyes watching me in the dark. Sign 2. The silence before Mass. 3 separate accounts, 3 different dioceses, 3 different priests, each one standing at the altar, ready to begin Mass, and completely forgetting how. No words, no gestures, frozen in place for minutes. One was rushed to the hospital. Another has never said Mass since. Father Adrian? His sacristan noticed something chilling. Every day before Mass, he stood at the sacristy door and whispered, "Give me strength to finish what they started." No one ever asked what he meant. Sign 3. The red stain. This one the Vatican tried hard to bury. 2 parishes, one in Poland, one in northern Italy. In both, blood-red stains appeared on white linen cloths covering the altar. Before Mass began, no source, no injury, no explanation. In both cases, the priests refused to continue the liturgy. Father Adrian's housekeeper reported finding a crimson mark on his pillow the day before he died. She thought it was a nosebleed, but the coroner found no wounds, no broken vessels, no trauma, nothing. Sign 4. The abandoned prayer. Perhaps the most frightening of all. Multiple priests during the sacrament of confession, stopping midway through the words of absolution, freezing, going blank, or, worst of all, reciting something that wasn't Latin and wasn't from the church. One priest afterward wept for hours and begged not to be left alone in the confessional again. And Father Adrian? His final confession, 2 days before his death, lasted over an hour. And when his confessor came out, his hands were trembling. He wouldn't speak to anyone for days. And then he resigned. Now think about this. 4 signs, all spoken by the Pope, in secret, all witnessed by faithful clergy across the world, all fulfilled in the life and death of one priest. Coincidence or prophecy fulfilled? 4 signs, real stories, confirmed, ignored. And yet, even now, some of you will treat this like content, like another video to watch and forget. But if these signs are true, then this is not just a video. It's a warning shot from heaven. So ask yourself again, what's stopping you? Why wouldn't you subscribe? Why wouldn't you take this seriously? And if you won't, if something inside you still resists, then don't hide, don't pretend. Go to the comments, write it. I won't subscribe, and here's why. let it be said. Let it be recorded, because silence won't save you. But if you're awake now, if your soul is stirring, then join us. Subscribe to Pope Leo XIV at Truth. Be counted among the few who won't pretend they didn't hear. Next, we go to the tomb, the one that never opened, the one Father Adrian mentioned in his journal, and the one the Vatican says doesn't exist. But we have reason to believe it does. And something, or someone, is sealed inside. Let's talk about the tomb. Not just any tomb. A sealed crypt beneath the old catacombs of St. Callistus. One that, according to every Vatican map, shouldn't exist. But Father Adrian mentioned it by name in his final handwritten entry, the night before his death. His words? The sealed tomb beneath St. Callistus. It never opened. That's where it started. No priest had spoken of it before. No historian had dared to publish about it. But old Jesuit records, quietly passed among exorcists, mention a vault built to contain spiritual corruption so great even the relics near it had to be moved. They called it Speculum Tenebris, the mirror of darkness. Why would Father Adrian reference it? Why would he, a young parish priest from a countryside diocese, even know of its existence? Unless someone told him, or unless he saw it. There were whispers, brief, swiftly buried, that 3 Swiss guards collapsed near an unmarked crypt after a private liturgy in March 2023. A strange fog had gathered inside the chamber. All 3 guards were rendered mute for several hours. One has since resigned. Another entered a Benedictine monastery and took a vow of silence. And the third? He vanished. No record, no farewell, not even a funeral. Now pause. Ask yourself, how many coincidences are needed before we stop calling them coincidences? A prophecy, a suicide, a nun who disappeared, a pope who wept, a tomb that no one dares acknowledge. And in the center of it all, one man, Father Adrian D., who saw too much, who suffered too long, and who died, not because he lost faith, but because his faith saw the rot beneath the robes, and no one would listen. But you're listening now. You've stayed this far. You've heard the signs. You've heard the silence. And now you face a choice. Some of you have felt the weight of this message deep in your chest. You know this isn't fiction. You know something is being revealed. And it's not by accident. But you'll still walk away. You'll pretend it was just strange content. A well-written story. Interesting, but harmless. Until one night, in silence, you'll remember this priest, this prophecy, and the moment you were given truth and turned your face away. So before you go, if you won't subscribe, write your reason. Let it echo in the comment section. Let your silence become testimony. But if your soul is awake now, truly awake, then don't hesitate. Subscribe right now, because this is only the beginning, and what's coming next is darker than anything we've shown you so far. Next, we reveal the Black Mass incident, footage that was supposed to be erased, audio that leaked, even though no microphone was ever present. What did it capture? A voice, not of this world, and it used the name of Pope Leo XIV. Prepare yourself. They tried to destroy the footage. They wiped the servers. They deleted the security tapes. They pulled every seminarian from the chapel and swore them to silence. But the audio survived. Just 7 seconds. 7 seconds that shouldn't exist. Because there were no microphones in that chapel. No phones. No transmitters. Only silence. And something that broke through it. It happened during a liturgy at a Vatican-affiliated seminary just outside Milan. Spring of 2023. A guest priest visiting from Argentina and began the celebration of the Eucharist. All was normal, until the elevation of the host. He lifted the body of Christ, and then froze. His hands shook, his lips moved, but no words came out. And then, the candle closest to the altar went out on its own. A coldness filled the room. Multiple seminarians later described it as the absence of breath. And then, on an audio recording no one admits to placing, a voice whispered in perfect clarity, "He warned you, and you buried him." One of the seminarians fled the room screaming. Another collapsed. 2 others refused to continue seminary formation and returned home that week. What makes it undeniable? The voice said his name, not the guest priest, not the seminarians, not the rector. The voice said, "He warned you, and you buried him," followed by the name, Adrian. Father Adrian had never stepped foot in that seminary. He had no recorded connection. And yet, weeks after his death, his name was spoken during the elevation of the Eucharist by a voice that no human being present admits to speaking. Now let's piece this together. A prophecy whispered by Pope Leo XIV in private. A priest who begins experiencing supernatural torment. 4 signs fulfilled. A crypt that shouldn't exist, but does. A voice from nowhere saying his name in the house of God. Tell me, do you still think this is coincidence? Or is it confirmation? Here's what's worse. After the incident, the seminary chapel was closed for renovation. The official reason? Structural inconsistencies. But one seminarian, and before returning to Argentina, I said something else. There was a presence in the floorboards. It moved when we prayed. They're not going to talk about this. The bishops won't preach it. The media will never air it. But it's happening. The veil is tearing. And the church, the one you love, is suffering a wound deeper than scandal. A spiritual infection. And Father Adrian saw it. And Pope Leo XIV tried to warn us. But no one listened. Until now. You listened. You stayed. You didn't scroll past. You felt the chills. You saw the signs. You heard the voice. So now, you stand at the edge of something very few people are willing to face. And the question is no longer, is this real? The question is, what are you going to do about it? Because time is short. The silence is loud, and you've already heard too much to return to ignorance. You can pretend this was just a video, or you can accept that this was a summons. A call to wake up, to prepare, to pray, to speak. If you won't subscribe now, that's your choice. But let your reason be known. Go to the comments and write, "I won't subscribe, and here's why." Be honest. Let your silence become your confession. But if you felt it, if something opened in your soul tonight, if the Spirit stirred the dust in your chest, then join us. Now, without hesitation, subscribe to Pope Leo XIV for truth. Because the next video, we're uncovering the list Pope Leo XIV kept in his personal breviary. A list of spirit-touched saints the Vatican never canonized. Men and women who bore marks of the Holy Spirit, but were silenced by the Church. Why? You'll find out soon, but only if you're still with us. He warned us, but we didn't listen. Will you?